And in. And out. And begin.
Welcome to Mindgap Podcast. I'm Doug.
I'm Justin.
And it's another week. It's
Guys,
another Thursday.
It's another Thursday. You made it to the Thursday. It's the as I call it, Friday Eve.
It's the eve of all Fridays.
And it's one of my favorite days because when I'm posting this, I always go, tomorrow's Friday. And
Yes.
that means the weekend's here.
Yeah.
So guys, we are on the eve of the weekend.
Eve is here.
Suck that in. Soak that in. Suck it and soak it.
Speaking of sucking and soak it, let's talk about our sponsor,
Jesus Christ.
Elephant and Castle, because they have a lot of things that you can suck in and soak in as well.
That's true, yeah.
They have great booze, they have great food, and we highly recommend them. They're located at 185 North Wabash in Chicago, Illinois, and they are seriously fantastic. It's a wonderful sort of British-themed pub and eatery and things of all that nature.
That's how they say it in England.
Like, just like that.
Just like Doug, I'm not sure if you know this, but Doug is a master of accents.
Yes.
We've discussed it before on the podcast, and you should go back and listen because that was his best British accent.
It's an eatery and a pub.
Yep, there you go.
I shook as I said that.
He really did.
Aside from them just being awesome, they have great happy hours every day from 3 to 6 p.m. where they have snack and shares, where basically any appetizer item that's under $11 is half price. And they also have really good prices on some drinks, which is pretty cool. They also have great daily specials, such as One and Done Mondays, where they bring in a very specially well cared for, very loved keg of beer. And they tap it, and they pour it until it's gone, and each pint is only $3.
Eins, zwei, drei, $3.
That's what he said. Yeah. I'm going to believe it. $3.
It's really one of the best deals, and we say this every week, one of the best deals in Chicago. Because you can try something, it's a specialty keg, it's a craft keg. You've probably never tried this before, and so you can come for $3, you get to meet some nice people, have some conversations, get a drink, you're not breaking the bank, it's a good time.
Exactly, and it rotates every week, so it's always something new.
Right.
So which is really, really cool. So check that out on Mondays. And then you've got Tin Up Tuesdays, where all tins are 25% off. Justin, what's a tin?
It's the inverse of knit.
Absolutely true. And it's also a can of beer.
That's true, yeah.
And they're all 25% off on Tuesdays. You have Wine Down Wednesdays, where glasses of wine are $1 off, and the full bottle is half price. Ooh.
I spent a week in Sonoma, and I can tell you that that's a good wine deal.
That is a good price. Guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
Thursdays is Locals Only Thursdays, where locals get down to fuck.
And
also,
while you're fucking locals.
Also, it's, all local beer is $5.50. So enjoy a nice local brew while you maybe schmooze. I don't know. I'm sure they love the fact that I say, hey, they're down to fuck every Thursday. Who knows?
This is the last week they'll be a sponsor.
You're welcome, guys. And then if you wake up on the weekends and it's just a little bit past breakfast, but it's too early for lunch, come on in for brunch, where they have wonderful selection of brunch menu items as well as mimosas and Bloody Marys, each of which are only $5.
That's only $2 more than the craft keg of beer on Mondays.
What?
Yeah, it's really good stuff.
And according to Justin, they are delicious because I don't drink.
Yes, and they are. You can trust me. I'm a trusting, worthy guy.
He's a trusting, worthy guy.
I'm a trusting, worthy guy.
And he's totally worth it. So head on down to Elephant and Castle, 185 North Wabash. Hop in there and say, hey, I heard about you guys on Mindgap. Doug and Justin said you have some wonderful deals. I think they're great, and I think you're great, and everyone wins.
Right.
Make it happen.
Make it happen.
That being said, too, we want to put on our solicitation hat and just say, hey, if you like what you're hearing, head on over to wherever you are listening to this lovely podcast and leave a rating, leave a review. Let the world know what you think about this podcast because we would really, truly appreciate it.
That's right. And subscribe to us on there so you don't miss when we drop this each week. And then also share us around. Wherever you're listening, there's a share button. Click that. Share it to one of your social medias or all of them. Or you can send it directly to a friend and say, hey, friend, you like this topic. Listen to this, and then we can discuss said topic.
Yes, and we truly appreciate that because we like a flow of dialogue. So if you hear something or you have a question, if you're like, hey, I don't agree with that, send it over because we will absolutely entertain whatever you send our way.
Now, if you're into video games, you might well want to share this week's podcast.
Yes, because this week's podcast, episode 170, is a real special one.
It's a humdinger. We
had a very special guest by the name of Jonny Cruz on our podcast this week. You may know him as the voice of Lucio from Overwatch. What?
You heard him right.
Yes, he's also been a slew of other great things, such as what, Mr. Justin?
He's been in Red Dead Redemption 2. He was Hitman. He's going to be in the upcoming Hitman 2. We've been in a bunch of TV shows, Castle, NCIS, Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23, which was one of my favorites when it was on. So, actor, voiceover actor, and after this conversation, all around great guy.
Amazing human being. He was so much fun to talk to. He was very generous with his time, and he shared some wonderful stories. So we talk a little bit about him being Lucio for Overwatch, what it's like to be sort of the voice for this amazing, positive character. We switch gears a little bit and talk about improv, his experience with improv and comedy, and we have a lovely throwdown at the end, which I'm not even going to spoil. I think you should just listen to it and hear what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So we really enjoyed chatting with Mr. Jonny Cruz. We know you will too, so sit back, relax, enjoy episode 170 of Mindgap Podcast. Mindgap Podcast.
So, I mean, we're talking like my experience with gaming was heavily up until I was like 17, right?
Okay.
I'm talking Legend of Zelda. I'm
Nice.
talking about, I had to get I'm a completionist, right? So I had to get every heart, every little thing in the game. And same thing with Mario. In Mario, I got every single star till
Oh my gosh.
I was blue in the face, man. Like, so that's the way I play games, which was really not conducive
Oof.
to having life.
I was the same way though. Like I was like OCD with my stuff when I was trying to. Yeah, I would like have to on N64. I went through and tried to get every single star in every single level, and then I just read actually an article that said that there was a hidden star that no one knew about. It was like a glitch in the game that the developers put in there as like an Easter egg.
That's some mean stuff right
and
there.
so I texted the guys I used to play with back in high school. I'm like, guys, we're gonna have to reconvene because we never beat the game.
That's
Allegedly,
so funny.
yeah.
Well, what's funny is like my sister, when I was growing up, she knew how to get me, right? And when we'd have fights, she would the time that I'll never forget is she went into Mario when I was like at 116 stars.
Uh-oh.
She deleted my game.
No!
And I don't think I cried harder in my life. Girlfriend's broken up with me, all kinds of shit. But that was the most painful.
That is rough.
I didn't play for years,
Oh,
like
my
I was
gosh.
like, I wasn't gonna go back there and do all that work. I was like, oh, that work lost.
Oh, that's so
And then
funny.
I went to visit my family in Puerto Rico, and I just happened to stumble upon my cousin's game, which had like 50 stars,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, I'm gonna do this tonight. Got on it, man. I got 127 stars
Nice.
in like 2 days, man. I was like,
I like
that was it. I went back to it and completed, but I didn't get that secret star. Now I got to go back even again.
Right, yeah. I like the concept that it was almost like you were like a superhero who was like, no, I witnessed this person died and I can never go back. Like you had to put it down. Yeah. Like, I can't go back to it. It's just too painful to go back and play this game now.
It's very true, though. Like,
Yeah.
For a hot second, not a hot second, for many years I played World of Warcraft, and one day I logged in, I realized someone had hacked my account, and it was absolutely devastating to me. My character was just floating in the ether, and I was like, what happened? And he slowly fell to his death. Somehow they logged me out in midair, and he fell down to his death, and I opened up, and I had nothing, and I was like, what do I do? I was like trying to remember all the pieces of gear that I had. I was like writing it down, and I opened up a ticket with Blizzard, and I was like, I think I had these items, like, I don't remember. I was like just devastated, and they were like, it's cool, we got you. They completely like revamped it, like, we recommend you put this additional stuff like on it so it doesn't happen again. So ever since then I've had the passcode app, the thing, because I was like, I never want that feeling again. I felt horrible.
Yeah,
I felt violated.
That's terrible. Good on them for bringing that stuff back for you, though.
Yeah. I was like, if you just even give me a fraction of these things that I'm listing, I know you don't know how I can prove it, but I know that I earn these things.
I think they have a history, like they have got the log. They know everything, guys.
They're listening to this right now.
They know exactly what we have.
Get me out of here, man.
So you played up until about 17, and after that you kind of took a break, or just?
I think it was like the thought is where video game's gonna get you at that time period.
Right.
Little did we know. So I actually was focusing more on like gaining life skills, which I kind of went from gaming to playing video games to learning computers kind of intricately.
Oh, cool.
all kinds of like ways in which to not feel powerless around a computer.
Smart.
So like I went into computer science and engineering. That was going to be my major, but also all the while still doing acting the whole time, because I've been acting since the 7th grade. So I really focused all my energies on like learning skills that in the future would, get me somewhere.
Right.
And with computers, I think I always had a fascination. I think because of video games, because of just, the technology. I was like, I want to learn it. So I learned how to program in C.
Nice.
Then I kind of moved on to like web programming and like PHP and like designing and stuff like that. I got into SEO, things like that. All the while still like building up my acting career. So I was kind of living these two lives.
Yeah.
Sure.
Would find out about the other. They were like, wait, what? Because it's just kind of different worlds,
Yeah. Again, very superhero-like. I'm seeing a pattern here.
I like this. I like your thoughts on my life. You should I want you to write my biography.
I've already started on your Wikipedia page. Don't worry. I'm editing the shit out of that. Yeah.
So yeah, I think also too, like I felt like, man, I couldn't allow myself to enjoy those things, right? I think as I was on like a time clock to like,
sure,
in my brain, like save the world, save my family, right?
Right.
From, like, where we came from wasn't like, exactly the nicest of places. So I was like, how do I get myself out of here? Get my family. And so like, I think I took things really seriously, and playing games wasn't something that I would allow myself to do.
Sure. Yeah.
And and so over time, like cut to me like a couple days ago just playing Mega Man 4 all the way. Like I'm gonna do it up, missing, go back to all the games I never got to play.
You're having that childhood again.
Yeah. I was like, what? I got a little bit of time here. Let me play these games I never got to fucking play.
Yeah, right.
Growing up too, I only had I'd have like one game for months. Like I'd have like Mortal Kombat. I had to play that through and through.
Yeah.
Super Mario, just play that shit through and through.
Right.
But going over to my friends who had games, like I'd be like, and you know what? I think it taught me to have like these single games is to like really beat them through, like from beginning to end, find every little nook and cranny in the game. And then I'd go to my friends who had like multiple games and didn't beat any. They just like jump from one to the next. I'm like, what are you doing?
Right. Well, it also makes you look like.
Nephew too.
It also makes you look like this.
All these games. I'm like, you don't beat any of these? Like, you gotta finish it out, man, and collect every little piece. He's like, man, that's not boring.
But like, what a way to like appreciate the game too. Like the developers put all their time into that, and like now, and then you studied, computers and stuff. You figured out how much actually went into it, and you were exploring literally every corner of the game.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I used to have the same thing with music, where I didn't like to buy a lot of albums at one time because I felt like I didn't get to explore them in their entirety. And I remember one Christmas, I asked my mom for like 5 CDs, and she got them all to me. And I remember to this day, it was the biggest mistake because I never really fully listened to all of them because I had them all at the same time. Right. I was like, I'll listen to this one a little bit, and I'll jump to the next one. And I'm like, oh, well. And then there were some that like I felt bad that I wasn't listening to yet. I'm like, I got this for a gift, and I haven't even listened to it, and so I wasn't really fully appreciating it. And I had the same thing with games too, where I'm like, I play this game and I beat it until and I don't move on until it's done. And then for some reason, I had this like almost breakthrough moment where I'm like, you can move on to another one. You know that, right?
Yeah, breakthrough. I like that.
I just had this whole thing where I'm like, I have to beat this game before I can play anything else. Kind of like you're doing with, watching Luke Cage Season 2 and Iron Fist Season 2 before watching Daredevil Season 3, which I told him he doesn't have to do.
And I do. It's that OCD-ness in me. I'm just like, I got to get through the ones they let out first before I can like treat myself with Daredevil Season 3.
That's so funny. That's exactly how I feel about watching stuff too. I can't watch, like, I just jump into the season. I have to, like, I remember I stopped at The Office at some point, like watching The Office, and then it was like way seasons in, and then I'd be watching an episode. I'm like, I can't watch this.
Yes, I feel the same way.
4 seasons in, like.
I get that though. Like if you started and then you stopped, and it's like, well, I don't want to. I feel like I've missed some backstory, or I feel the need to restart it. because I'm like, there's going to be stuff that I don't remember.
Right.
You know, I refuse to do that. Well, actually, no, I enjoy doing that with Game of Thrones or something like that, where I'm like, I'm going to rewatch this all over again because I want to know exactly where we left off.
You almost have to with that, though. Like, you can't, there's no way you can just take a break and then be like, just jump back in and see where we pick it up. Like, there's no way you can do that.
I mean, I could try.
You can try.
But you won't enjoy it as much, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I know what you mean. I just, with those video game stuff like that, I'm like, these have to be done, like, and get them. But then, because then I feel bad, because nowadays I have a Steam list of games that I've just been like, you know what? I don't even know if I even downloaded that game. I just bought it because it was on sale for $5.
Right.
I'm like, I should probably play that.
That's funny, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, for me, when Overwatch came out, like, everybody always asking me if I played Overwatch, right? And I didn't even have a gaming system, and so I was like, fuck, I gotta get on this. And so I went and played at a friend's, like she had a PS4, Anjali's Symmetra. I also played at Divas.
Oh, that's awesome.
Charlotte and her husband they slay the game, man. What's going on here?
That's amazing.
Yeah, Tom, he taught me how to like play Lucio, and I was, this is incredibly difficult. Back in, cut to me like 1998, finishing off playing games. Cut to me now trying to play Lucio. I'm like, why so many things? I learned pretty quick. I mean, because this takes me back to like GoldenEye when I was doing that. Bond, like that, we played that every day for the summer, and that was just epic, man.
Yeah,
so this is like another feeling of like but now you got a team and it's a whole different thing. And yeah, my experience was just like and also just it's an interesting thing to have kind of that anxiety of like playing with other people and letting them down and not being good at, like, there's so many levels to this game that I think it makes it so exciting. But for me, it just gives me tremendous anxiety. I'm like,
trust me. And for the record, you're not letting them down. They're just assholes. So just know that if they make you feel like you're letting them down, they're dicks. Because I run the same problem with that.
It's my own perfectionism. It's like, I gotta be great for like that. Gotta save these guys. Gotta see it. Where did that come from? But exactly, it's like that whole. For me, that's when I was playing the game, and yeah, I think the anxiety of it is like, you want to be good, but you're not good. And so like, but also the time in which it's going to take in my brain. Right. Yeah. I'm like, I could never like.
Oh yeah, no.
I would literally have to dedicate my life. And I think it's for sometimes me is like, there's no reason to do this unless it's all in, Right.
Right.
That's kind of how I've lived my life in some ways, but I don't think it's very good, guys. But it's like, why don't I just enjoy some of the game? But I've seen people, man, they'll start to get into the game. Like my roommate, he was like, I had a copy of it. He had a PC. I was like, hey, yeah, throw this on your PC, play it. I literally didn't see him for 2 months. And he comes out of his like, I've been playing Overwatch. And I was like, what? Like time to heal up because he started. And I'm like, oh man. But yeah, people just get so immersed in it, and I'd be like, that'd be me. Nothing, none of my responsibilities. Because I'd want to get it all. I'd want to level up. I want to get to, for one Lucio of all time.
Yeah, right? Of course.
Now, if you're playing, when you go over to your friend's place, or if you're playing it now at home or whatever, like if you're there, forgive me, I've never played, I haven't had a gaming system in a couple years, so I've not played Overwatch. He has. But I'm assuming there's a big element of that is the online gameplay. Where So do you ever freak people out and like go in and like talk as Lucio?
No, I haven't. I haven't done that online, and sometimes in my brain I'd be like, I think I avoid it because I'm like, they're not gonna believe me, because sometimes it's like
they don't.
It's just, and sometimes I'm like, where's the voice? Time to heal up, and then it's like they're like, nah, I can't handle that kind of like rejection on the game.
You don't sound like him at all.
No, seriously, it's me.
I'm like, swear to God.
I will get a video chat right now and show you my Lucios.
Look at me, yeah.
It's so funny because I saw a YouTube video of the guy who did McCree and the guy who did Winston hopping on and talking, and people are like, what the hell is going on here? And they're just like chatting, and it was so amazing. People were like, there's no way. There's no way. This has got to be some sort of like, what do they call it? The voice things that they use. I can't remember what they're called.
The soundboards or something?
Like it's got to be a soundboard. And they're like, oh my goodness, this is a
that's
terrible
pretty good.
situation. You know, it's like, is this Winston? Like, people were freaking out. And I'm sitting there just going, this is amazing. This is amazing. But I didn't think about the other side where someone would be like, that doesn't sound good enough. And you're like, come on, man.
Right. Yeah. Don't quit your day job, man.
Yeah.
My ego, my feelings.
My ego just bleeding on the floor.
It's something that I've kind of been interested in is that because you see this in you definitely saw this with Overwatch, but then now you see it in Fortnite as well.
Oh yeah,
is that like the games just kind of like it was a wildfire that just swept across everyone. And I mean, Overwatch, the E-League on that is just like one of the biggest fucking things ever. And so like, and Doug and I have talked about this ad nauseum on and off mic, but what do you think is the reason for what about it like caught so quickly and just spread like that?
I mean, there's a couple things. I think what happened with this game is like I think Blizzard. I mean, they've been working on this for 17 years, man, or more. Like,
jeez.
It started with Titan, right? Back in the day with the game that they were creating. That I saw a trailer for that years ago, and I was like, whoa, that looks crazy cool. And then they were just like, hey, you know what? This isn't working. You know, they were just like, what? The game just ain't working. We're gonna ditch it, and that takes a lot. All the money spent on it, but they knew. And that's what Blizzard does is like, hey, you know, they're not going to release, you know, shit.
Yeah.
So they took all the elements from that game that did work, right? And then they built it upon this other thing, which Jeff Kaplan's really wonderful for taking this and acceptance and inclusion, right? That idea of these characters that you could jump into that were diverse and were like around the world and had personality. And then adding the fact that you could jump on with your friends and play against other people, you know, that competition. Like there was all these elements that I think just kind of came together in a way that really resonated with people, right? It would bring, I would always hear like, you know, a father and a son or be like, or different friends come together and be like, yeah, we weren't like hanging out much, but this brought us together and like this made us connect. It really connected people.
Yeah.
And it kind of like, I think that kept building is like they were playing this fun game and that they were jumping into these avatars that were in some way, you know, representative of them or their country or diverse that, you know, I've gotten a lot of people coming up to me and being like, wow, to be a hero that's, you know, Brazilian, that's of South American, like, and be so positive, like it's been something that I think people have needed, you know, and especially with these games, like it's kind of jumping into like, yeah, the skin of a hero, and I mean Lucio, he's such an encouraging, fun guy. It's like somebody that you would look up to in some way. It's what I've got, like, and he's encouraging you that you could do it, right?
Yeah.
We all need that friend in real life,
right?
Man, you know what I mean? Like somebody that's like, I got you, man. Let's do this together.
Right,
and that's
right.
like kind of. And so I've gotten a lot of fans to come up and be like, yo, man, you've helped me out of like a depression because of just the energy that's in the game. And these are all things that I'm like, there's such detail and intricacy in the game that they thought about to make people have such a positive experience in that way with the characters and things like that. So I think Blizzard really, I mean, I think they went with something and then and also Blizzard didn't even realize, right? They're like, we had no idea that this would blow up, you know? And,
right.
It's just, I think it's just kind of timing and, you know, with the video gaming industry, it's kind of like shifting into this major thing, which, I would have never predicted, you know, and when people started watching, you know, gameplay on YouTube and that became a big thing.
Yeah.
I was like, why are they doing that? You know what I mean? Hours. But, you know, I forgot about the fact that, you know, maybe like a week ago, I sat and watched my friend play Mega Man X2.
Right.
All the way through.
Right. And that's what we used to do.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
That's what we used to do, man. Yeah, for sure.
Right? And I'm like, wait a minute. I see. Yeah. But, you know, I also watched my friend play The Last of Us. I just walked into his room.
Oh, man.
Playing, man. You know what I mean? And this was like my intro back to like gaming again. Like,
what a game to get back into.
Yeah. And so I sat and watched the entire gameplay of him just play that. And I was like, like super emotional.
Right? Dude, the opening to that game, like I spent most of my childhood watching my brother play games and just like, especially role-playing games. And when Last of Us came out, he brought it back for a holiday. He goes, I want you to watch the opening to this game. Yeah. And he played it, and I was like, oh, my God! He goes, yeah, that's just how the game starts. And I'm like, Jesus Christ! This game is intense. I was like, oh, my God. It cut me at my heartstrings. I was like, oh, my. So like, to sit and watch is like a really powerful thing, especially when it's got an engaging story, there's cool graphics, and obviously if the person who's playing it is good, because if they're not, you can be like, all right, I'm out. I'm going to go to the bathroom now.
It's too frustrating. You're sitting in frustration.
Exactly.
And it's been to me a very interesting shift to active media, right? Like being involved with the thing that you're watching, or instead of just watching it passively, it's an active kind of, you're almost setting the story, almost telling the story, and making your own stories by, man, that zombie almost got me, but I turned around and, right. Like you're now part of the story, and I think that's in a big way part of the future of media and how that's kind of evolving. Man, because I as an actor, I never in my wildest dreams, I've been doing this for over 20 years, like, all kinds of stuff. And you never know what's going to hit or, take you to the next level. There's been things that I was like, this is it. And it wasn't it. With this, I was like, oh, this isn't it at all. You know what I mean? That was in my brain. I was like, yeah, I was just doing a fucking couple lines for a video game. Like, okay, see you later.
Yeah.
Then for this to be what it is and shoot me to a new level in my career was unexpected and very much appreciated, because as an artist, you always just want to be appreciated for, the work you're doing, or just at least have it be seen and resonate with people. And I never would have thought it would have been, a video game that really did that. But in reality, it makes sense. You know what I mean? Of course, these guys are like, you're like, people play Lucio for 300, 400 hours, and you're like, I'm literally, my voice is there comforting you through good and bad gameplay, and that's meaningful. So people don't watch. I mean, what we got of a season? You might watch, I don't know, 20. There's like 13 hours in a season, maybe. 20, that's people playing 300 hours.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point.
Well, plus just the way that the gaming community is, like, it's just like it's such a tight knit, supportive, like ferociously loyal community. And so, like, when people like something, they're gonna they are in. That's it. And so to get someone like that where you can inspire, man, they're gonna glom onto that, and that's just gonna bump it up to the next level.
I mean, the fan base that I have, they have been. Like, all my comments on my page, at least, I'm like super positive.
That's so awesome.
God bless you, sir. I'm glad.
I'm like, man, you know what I mean? That's not nice.
That's not easy to do online.
I'm like, why is everybody so nice to me? What's going on? But yeah, like, I think they associate me with that altruistic Lucio, and I in some ways that altruism is a part of me in there somewhere. And for the fact that they are that loyal and that, I've been so surprised and very thankful, and especially just over the years wanting a fan base. Best there is. This is one of the loving, like, whoa. So
have you gotten to do like Comic-Cons and stuff?
Yeah, I've done which I had never done before Overwatch.
Yeah.
And the whole new world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Had no idea the artwork, some of the cosplay, the realm, and some of like just how weird stuff can be. I love it. Like, this is super weird. I mean, I love it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Have you seen some like really badass Lucio cosplay?
Oh yeah. There's I can't remember her handle, but she does the skates and everything.
Oh, awesome.
So awesome.
And, yeah, she is fantastic, man. There's been some guys that have come up, done some really amazing, like Jazzy Lucios, like all
I remember Jazzy Lucio
popping around. People giving me Lucio guns, like the Sonic amplifiers, and I'm like, what? You're just gonna give me this big old gun? I got to carry it around, and I'm like, I love it. It's freaking great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, just like how nice the fan base is as well. You know, like they come down and they'll give you artwork, they make you stuff, and you're just like, you made this?
Yeah.
You know, like Jesus, so talent.
Yeah.
Just so nice, and the fact that they just want to be there for a second to meet, you know, me of all people, and be like, you know, thank you for what you've done. I'm just like, man, you guys are. This is what life can be.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, and appreciation, and so I think that's a big thing too, man. Just my gratitude for the fan base as well, man. Mostly, I think, because without them, there's nothing.
Yeah,
really.
Right.
Absolutely. And you kind of touched on it a little bit, but like, what's that like to be the voice of such a well-beloved character? Because I've heard stories, you know, you've seen the kid who played Joffrey in Game of Thrones. People hate him in real life, you know, because he's such a good villain. What's it like to be like a hero, walk around, people be like, you, sir, you're great. I mean, they've been saying wonderful things. You inspire them, you help them through some tough time. Like, what's that
I'm
like?
happy I'm not a villain. Overwatch. Man, but I think, you know, as a Hispanic man, you know, to be a leading man in not a, you know, like a drug cartel movie or something like that, you know, I think those are things that you sometimes worry about. For me, you know, anyway, and it's like, where are the heroes in that sense that are dark skinned? You know,
Yeah.
I'm always looking at it and be like, well, how many of them are there, and how can I find ways in which to represent brown skin in a positive way? And that's what I think Blizzard gave me the opportunity to do, and that meant a lot, you know. So I think when I got to voice this character, I remember like thinking about, you know, all the characteristics that Lucio had on paper, and you know, it was just like, you know, he's an kind of the cooler older brother kind of guy that's encouraging and that people want to be around and people like, and he's just an all around kind of altruistic good dude, you know. And I was like, ooh, this is nice. I like where they're going with this guy, you know. And then I was just like, how can I put all my positive, good feelings into this paper so people feel it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you know, I get in my modes of when I'm inspiring my friends, I talk in a certain way, you know, and there's like an excitement in my speaking. And so I was like, let me dig into that place. And I think for me, when I did that, I tapped into something that they really could hear, right? And they heard so many different Lucios, right? And they heard people with like Brazilian accents. They heard the gambit, right?
Yeah.
But they say when they heard my voice, they were like, "Whoa, that's it," because there was a feeling that they had when they heard it.
That's fantastic.
You know? Yeah, and that to me was like to take that and then to put that on a character to say, "Hey, this is what, you know, someone like this can be and do for someone." And for it to be, you know, because I watched the first gameplay of Lucio when he came out, and you hear the voice, and then
what was that like?
You sweat, and you're like, oh man, that doesn't sound good at all. I was like, nobody's gonna believe this guy. Oh my god, I don't believe it. And then when people just were like, yes, like, and Blizzard also didn't expect, you know, some of the characters that became very popular, they weren't the ones they had bet on, right? Or they thought about Winston and Tracer, but a huge like just a huge following started for myself and Diva, you know, like they were like, didn't really expect that, but it was like a big kind of like, whoa, like you never know, right, what's gonna land with some people, and the fact that it did land to me was like so meaningful because it was a positive look. And it shows like, hey man, yeah, like this is how this representation can be. Give us more chances, you know. There could be more Lucios and different, like, you know, IPs out there. So that's kind of like that hope and that dream is like, man, that felt good to play a hero finally in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so
and also
that's
to kind of like change the outlook, maybe the footprint of the industry, and open, just, you know, blow open the door for the possibility of replicating that.
Yeah, and so to me, I mean, I don't take it lightly. I'm always like very appreciative that this opportunity was presented and that I could be a representation of that. And I think even in my own life, I'm like, I got a fan base that is counting on me to make good choices.
Yeah.
So how do I do that? Even more so,
Yeah, well, and that's a whole nother layer to it, is that you don't think about, as you're making your way up, as you're trying to forge along in your career and make a name for yourself, then all of a sudden something like this hits and you're like, oh, I have a responsibility now to make sure that, on my life, I'm walking the straight and narrow, because people are watching what I'm doing as an example now.
Yeah.
Is that something that kind of weighs on you, or is that something that
I'm cracking right now, guys? Taking all the work.
Yeah, the listeners can't see it, but I mean, he is just flop sweating right now. It's
crazy.
I'm doing good, guys. Yeah, I think it's in this industry. I think it takes a little bit of gusto, and it takes confidence, and it takes a real belief in yourself, and I think after Lucio, it's like, okay, what am I gonna do now? Like, what's next? Like, and sometimes, there's nothing, right? There's nothing on the horizon. And you're like, okay, well, I'm not really pushing forward, or something's not happening. And I think that's something that could weigh on me sometimes, of like, you might book smaller things in between. But I think that's something that is like, am I pushing forward? Am I making choices out of fear, or I'm making them out of my truth, right?
Yeah.
And I think the constant thing is finding out what my truth is, man.
Mm-hmm.
What do I believe about myself and the world, and how is that? Because I think love in this world isn't romantic love. It's an energy, right? It's a life-giving energy. It's time, attention to either a person or a thing or work, right? And so where am I putting that quote unquote love, time, and attention? And sometimes we could put it into thoughts that we don't realize we're having, that continually keep us in the same place, right?
Right, yeah.
And so for me, I think it's always like, how am I doing mentally and emotionally? Is that place driving me to the next place? And I think that's where I spend a lot of my time, trying to like deal with all these emotions and things, and get to a point where I have a break in genius of like, I've released those emotions, and now I'm like onto a plane of like a higher frequency where I can perform without that heavy weight.
Right, yeah.
I'm going super, ethereal deep into
I love it, man. Yeah.
my process, but I think people can feel your confidence. People can feel your anger. People can feel all these things, whether they think so or not. And so I'm always at the basis level of what am I putting out every day when I go out into the world, right?
Right.
And these small things lead up to, it's a momentum, and it builds to bigger things, and like you believing in yourself, or like knowing that you can take on any challenge, because your word every day, my word is like, I'm going to be truthful, to say what I need to say when I need to say it in the best, most positive way, so that I'm not, spreading trash energy around. Right?
For sure, yeah.
And the more I do that, I think the more I can have more confidence in myself to know that when I say something, it's going to be, I'm going to keep my word. So now I can say bigger and bigger things. Like, I'm going to be on a lead on a series, and then you start to be like, all the little things that you do, you're keeping your word. And it happened for me when I got onto Robert Rodriguez was I was a huge fan of his in Texas, and he was somebody who was like, whoa, I want to work with him one day. And I remember, like, I made a decision at some point throughout my career, because I can be very distracted, gentlemen. Very distracted.
I've never heard that about creative types before.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I tell you what, man. So I made a choice. I was like, okay, I'm going to do everything I say I'm going to do, and I'm going to figure out how to get myself on a series. Nice. And I remember just making that decision. I would do any audition. I would do I would do a student film audition just to get that rep in the room,
Sure.
right? Just
Yeah,
to get
dude.
that audition rep, and like deal with that anxiety that always it comes up. And I would be very diligent. I would do the work. I was like making sure I was taking care of my health. I was taking care of like finances in any way. I would do whatever it took to be in a good place, right? And I mean, from decision to being on the show, it was like 3 months. It was a Matador, or the show that Robert Rodriguez was producing. And I was like, I'm going to be on the show, whatever it takes. And like just making mentality that choice, and being like, what's it going to take, And it was like keeping my word, and knowing that every time I kept my word, at some point I would gain more confidence. So I think when I went into that Matador room, I just had an incredible amount of confidence in myself, and I think they felt that, right?
They saw that, yeah.
And then I was on a series, and then I was like, okay, when I put the time, attention, and the love into the things that I want to do and make a choice, like I'm going to do this. I've noticed in my life, I've done it.
Yeah.
Right. I've been able to do things that seem like very far off, but you don't look at that. You just look at the daily, right?
Yeah. And I think a lot of people can see that too. If they look, I think that's a great place for people to operate in. Like for anyone listening to this too, like that, it feels like something's not going their way, or they can't really make that change or that shift they want to. I would even say start small, because I've seen it in small things. You make small decisions, and then that decision kind of happens, or you end up manifesting that decision into kind of like being. And so, like, I would say start small and just like see that change, see the things happening, and then start to grow that and get bigger and bigger with it, and eventually it's just gonna start rolling for you because you set yourself on the path.
You say that, and I remember the decision I had made. I was in London at the time, and just kind of feeling like, man, what am I doing? And I made one decision. I was like, okay, you know what? I eat way too many sweets, man. I'm just fucking sitting here, just eat cakes daily. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna cut out sugar. That's what I'm gonna do. One little thing. I'll still eat bread because I love bread.
Right. Come on.
But then, yeah, on my journey, like that helped me get healthy, right? Into a place where I was like, yeah, I haven't been eating sugar, and then I made a bigger decision to start working out.
Nice.
And I was like, I'm working out, so I feel good, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna do these auditions, and I'm like gonna find my process. And so it was like the small little decisions did lead into something like major, like some major changes. So yeah, I think the smallest things sometimes, like done consistently, can change your reality in ways you never thought.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So so you do some improv and some sketch comedy and stuff in where you are, correct?
Oh yeah, man. I think improv was one of the major decisions in my life that I was like, that was a good decision. That was a good decision because I was afraid of it. That I used to go to this. I mean, all my life I've just been fucking around, guys. I've been doing like it's like I will get like trapped in some kind of bit with my friends every day. Like, it's a joke.
I love it.
Find it and we'll beat it out.
Right.
So I think for me, I loved comedy, man. I loved Jim Carrey. I loved Dumb and Dumber.
To this day, I still say it's one of the smartest written comedies that I've seen. Still
a classic.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. And it's just like two sincere guys, man. Like, just being idiots, and how that works out. And so I think for me, comedy just was a major thing in my life because I think it was also a coping mechanism, like growing up for me, of like, I would get out of trouble with comedy, I would get out of, like awkward situations because I'd had a funny quip, and now it gets me in trouble sometimes. But that was like, so that to me meant a lot. And so when I wanted to do stand-up, but that wasn't really like, I was too afraid to do stand-up.
Oh, yeah.
Still right there with you.
So, you know what I mean?
I've been trying to write 5 minutes for like 15 years. I can't. I can't do it. It's just, I won't. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's that because you're up there all alone, right? Like,
yes.
And so for me, I've always been kind of a community I feed off of community and friendships and like that. And so a friend of mine told me, like, you should go see this improv show out in Fort Worth, Texas, and it was called 4-Day Weekend. And I went up there, and these guys put on this improv show from beginning to end, and they made it all up. They were singing songs that they made up. They were doing scenes off of Post-it notes that people wrote. They were doing scenes off of like sentences people wrote. It blew my mind. I remember feeling incredibly inspired and incredibly depressed. Right? Because I was like, man, I want to be able to do that. I was like, God, these guys, like everybody cleared out of the theater. I think I was just still sitting in this 300-seat theater by myself, just watching, just looking at the stage and being like, just feeling that. And so I was like, but the fear was like, what if I'm not good, right? What if like I do this and I realize I'm not funny or even talented.
Right.
And I made a decision right there. This is all about decisions, gentlemen.
Yes.
I made a decision to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to take their classes. And I'm not going to make it about me. I'm not going to make it if I'm good or not. I'm just going to put myself in a mindset like a scientist to learn whatever they're teaching. I was like, I just put myself in full capacity, whether it's good or bad. I will just be like, I am a student, and it doesn't reflect on me at all.
Right.
I'm just right now. And so I ended up taking their classes, and I was just having a great time, man. Like the idea of yes and having support from the people on the back line that they'll jump out if you're having trouble, or they'll ruin a scene. You never know.
You edited too soon. I wasn't done.
I was in my flow, man. Yeah, man. And that began my improv journey, because I think that was a road for me to become more confident in myself. And the guys were really gracious, man. And I think they took a liking to what I was doing. I went to like level 4, and they're like, hey man, we got this master's class we want you to be in. We're also looking for some performing talent. The guys that that have been through the class that you want to work with, let us know. We'll put them in the master class. I was like, you guys are freaking awesome.
Wow.
And so I would perform on Thursday nights. Sometimes it would be like a great, it's all, you're making it up. Sometimes it's one of the greatest shows you'll ever do, and the next night you're like, I need to quit and give up on my entire life and go program somewhere, like,
right.
Because, but that was the process. And I think you learn, you learn your audience, and you learn energies within the audience. And like, it's kind of a conversation, and, at some point through the master's class, the guys were like, hey Johnny, what are you doing Saturday? And I'm like, I'll probably be watching the show. And they're like, well, we want you to be in the show.
Oh, right? Man.
Yeah. And so like the night I'm performing, I have a great show. I'm looking up at the end of the show. There's like a full theater, 300 seats. And just the moment flashes back, and you're like, man, I like 3 years ago, I was sitting right there. And I was like, I want to be right here. And here I am. And it was just kind of this reality of like, oh, I chose this, right?
Yeah.
I made this happen. What else can I make happen, right?
That's fucking cool, man.
Yeah. And that was like, and then, I came to LA, I just continued to do improv, do my own shows. And like, part of that was also, as an actor, I would, if I wasn't getting a role, I learned how to make my own stuff. You know what I mean?
There you go. Super important.
And, yeah, so to make sketches or like these things that we would think up in improv, I was like, well, how can we shoot this so it just doesn't go into the ether?
Right.
But how can I like have it as a bit or a joke? And so I started making sketches as well, like at that point, and just continued to make movies. And I've directed a feature-length film that came out of, just me making some shorts. So, I mean, it was always like for me, over the years, I learned it was consistency. Right. I think a lot of like just continuing to do and improve upon what you're doing without looking at the outcome. Because when you're looking at the outcome, you're like, I'm never going to get there.
Right. Yeah.
But, there's been many times in my life where, the first supporting I got, that was a dream. And then I was like, oh, I'm here. Wait a minute.
Right.
It was all steps. And then you're like, you're in your first leading role and you're like, wait a minute, I wanted this and I'm here. Okay. So it's like, don't worry about the outcome. Just keep moving towards it with consistency. And I mean, that's what I learned I was working at Facebook for a while as a creative producer.
Oh, cool.
And that was the common through line of these people just doing the thing, whether it be an influencer or an actor or a musician. Like, these were the famous people that were coming through, and the same story I heard was like, they just continued to do it. Right. And it was just that consistent basis of like, and allowing it to happen however it was. And it's just like, man, how can I be more consistent in my life is what I started looking at. Is like, if I want to do sketches, how can I, or like create, how can I do it consistently? So
right.
I'm, taken seriously, or how can I create and write? So I'm taking seriously. How can I be consistently acting? So, you know what I mean? And boy, that's hard.
Oh yeah, no, dude. A couple of years ago, Buddy and I decided we would each start a vlog, and I made it through almost a year's worth, and then like things came up and I would miss a week, and then things would come up and I would miss a week, and then all of a sudden it just went off the rails. And it was that consistency is insanely hard to keep. With this podcast, we haven't missed an episode in 3 years. We've been at 3 years, and so for us, that has been that where we made a decision when we started. We're like, look, we have to do this every week. If we're gonna do this, it's got to be every single week. And thus far, like that has been the best decision that we've made with each other, the best agreement we've made. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mostly because it's just cool to get to hang out with them.
Right. It has led us to this fucking
you guys
point.
Made it.
Yes.
You guys made it.
Guys,
I think we can shut it down now.
To our tens of listeners, if you want to talk to Jonny Cruz, you just have to start a podcast, and 3 years later,
Jonny Cruz will be here.
He shall appear on your screen.
Supportive and energetic. I just want to take a note real quick. Everything you've talked about your life, you embody Lucio to a T. Like, it's amazing to me how you're just like, it's stand-ups about the individual. I want to be about the support and the team. That's 100% what Lucio is, like, and who he is as a character. I'm like, you are Lucio. It is perfect. Exactly who you should be is that guy. It makes me so happy.
Dude, I appreciate the compliment. I think I think that's the thing, is to have somebody to look up to and embody. And I think he is this altruistic version of myself that I would like to aspire to be, of somebody who's like, loving, encompassing, and somebody who supports and is there. And like, and I would say, I fall short a bunch, but I think there is that constant forgiveness of like, man, like, hey, I didn't handle that situation in the best way I could, but how can I, either handle it better in the future, or come back and say, hey, I didn't handle that right, and I think there is this level of like truth and honor in what I'm doing, of like that energy, right, spreading positive energy, because that you want to grow that versus a negative one. So I think that's always consciously on my mind with how I deal with people and how I interact with just my day to day. So at some point maybe I'll be rolling around on skates, who knows.
It's so awesome. That's so amazing. So that's cool. Justin and I actually are improv folks as well, maybe a slight bit removed from our days, but our first show together was a fun one. We just started at Second City, and we were in the intro level classes, and we had a teacher that was like, hey, why don't you guys be a part of this ensemble? It's a short run. You guys will do like 3 shows, just whatever. So we get up there, we're about shitting our pants. And
very first show we ever set foot on stage. Never been on stage before.
And we were just like, oh my God, look at these tens of people that are in this tiny room. And I think it was me. So I was like, hi everybody, we're blah blah blah. Could we get a suggestion of anything at all? And this was the day that Nelson Mandela had passed away. And someone in the audience goes, Nelson Mandela. And I wasn't experienced enough to say no, so I'm like, okay, we're gonna do Nelson Mandela. And Justin, a part of our forum, like, he had to come out first and do something with that, and he God bless him, tried so hard. He was like just struggling with whatever he could do.
It was the longest. In reality, it was probably no longer than 15 seconds that I was out there by myself before everyone engaged, but it felt like a solid 45 minutes that I was just trying to figure out what the fuck what do I do with this? This is not good at all. Yeah.
Just sweating bullets. And the best part was the person who yelled that out was the father of a guy who was in our group, and he was just being a dick.
Oh, man. Dude, like some of the shows, like, man, levels of uncomfort. I mean, that reminds me of a show that I was doing. I was doing like a clowning show where like this is high level. Like it's you and the audience, and maybe one other person, like just dealing with the audience, finding it. It's improv, but it's like with you and the relationships, not just with each other, but with the audience.
Yeah.
So we were these two like motivational speakers, man, and goddamn, and we're trying to get somebody to come up and like, they to tell us what their dreams are, and like, we're just failing miserably. And then an older woman is sitting in the front, and I zone in on her. I'm like, what's your dream? And she's like, to introduce the next segment. And I was like, okay, well, ow. And then I keep going, and I'm like, okay, well, you know what? I was like, we're gonna help you with that dream. We're gonna perfect this introduction. Get up here. Come on up here. And then so she gets up on stage, and she's like, you really want me to do this? And I'm like, we got your back. And then Oh my God. She begins to say, I was a victim of Bill Cosby back in 1960 something. And like literally she was introducing a segment for like the goddamn man for this awareness about, sexual assault and stuff. And so me and my partner, as she's doing this, like just freeze and we're like,
no.
Yeah, like
That is.
and then like all we could do was like, you did it. Oh man. And I was like, oh God. But I mean, that was something that like for me, I was just like to deal with any situation like in these things like that's a skill, right?
100%.
So, the guy who ran the show, he loved it so much. He loved the uncomfort because clowns, you're supposed to look like idiots, and we look like the biggest idiots.
Right? Oh my gosh.
And so he kept bringing us back because he actually loved how awkward and terrible like that whole thing was.
Oh my God. I don't know if I can imagine a
I'm
worse
sweating right now thinking about that. How
I don't know if I can
awkward that
imagine
is.
a worse situation than that. Holy shit.
Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But being in those situations, at the end of it, you realize, oh, I survived, right?
Yes.
And, like, even though like that was like really uncomfortable, I'm not dead. Like, like that was just an awkward situation. But now for the future, it's like, hey, if anything like this pops up, you think of scenarios in which to like alleviate it or help it. And so the next time something uncomfortable pops up, hey, I've been here before.
Right.
And so it's not as like, how to, and I have, I do a bunch of panels now, right? Where it's just me talking to like, hundreds of people, thousands sometimes. And improv was a huge piece of that. Clowning was a huge piece of that to get me to handle any type of situation. And, and I think for me, I love panels, man, because it combines like a lot of my skills and a lot of my fuckery, like and that's what I love to do. So all this stuff just kind of builds on itself, and like I think there's moments where you're like, oh, I'm not good, that was terrible, but to take a different approach, to be like, hey, I got to go through that. Now in the future, how can I handle that? So when it does come up, you could try different ways in which to handle these moments and to alleviate tension, to create tension, because that was a really great moment of tension, right?
Oh yeah.
God, you're so positive, because the only thing I can think of is like, this will be funny later. We might have been able to hit a laugh that was like super memorable, right? Which from there I think I've been able to like take that into stuff, and when there's a tense moment, know how to break it or know how to like be with it. So get that laugh, or I could get that moment of like sincerity or whatever it is. But all these moments are super important.
Yeah, when you gotta take them, and like you said, when you survive it, then you gotta take it and go, all right, I'm gonna lock that, or I'm gonna file that one away, and I'm gonna use that later. You gotta learn from it, and you always have to take that to the next time that you're in that, because those awkward, weird moments, that ended up being, when we were doing improv, one of my favorite things is just to live in the silence. Like if there was the silence, I was like, ooh, this is weird. I like it.
Yeah. Yes.
Because the best thing is, like, if you can live in it and then you can control it, and then if you land something to end that silence, people are going to be like,
you will bring the roof down.
Exactly.
Yeah. They're like, thank God someone spoke.
I loved it. With improv, like some of my, teammates would like, they were new, so they'd jump in. They didn't like silence. But when I would get on stage, it was me and someone else. Like I would take my time. I'd like open a beer, and like do that very intricately, and like sit there and like let the silence build. And like that to me was like the moments where you'd have the most payoff. And there's like tense scenes where people are like, what's going on? And then they lean forward because it becomes real. And then that stuff was my crack, man, to really like live in it.
Yeah. If you ever come to Chicago, you need to check out, I don't know if you've ever been to I.O. in Chicago.
Oh yeah, I did. I watched the Best Musical show.
Oh, good. Music. Nice.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's are you familiar with TJ and Dave?
TJ and Dave, man, they're the dream.
There you go. Right.
I watched their special.
Yes.
I watched their special. Because I've never seen them in person, but like, yeah, man, living in the silence, playing those different characters, like so much respect.
They embody that silence like no one I've ever seen before. Like when there was one show that I went to, seen a bunch of times, but there was one show went to, and I think it was a solid 5-10 minutes. They opened it. They didn't say a fucking word. And I was like, this is mastery. Like you're like, we were watching like Renaissance artists doing their fucking craft, man.
Yeah, and it's like you said, like I watched them and I'm like, I'm so inspired. At the same time, I'm like, God damn it, they're good. You know, I'm like, I want to be like that. And I'm like, it's so simple. They're following the same rules that I've been taught, yet they're so much better than I am.
I mean, they talk about that ability to just be fully present, and then like characters, like they soak them in the room and they embody them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole level of being present. And like, I remember doing shows, and like, I'd always say, if you're concerned about being funny, cool, or intelligent, you're not going to come off as any of those things, right?
Exactly.
Because you're not living that truth in the moment. It's like you serve whatever, and that's that letting go process of like, you serve whatever is in the moment, whatever you need to be, you commit so fully, and I mean, I would be so committed in improv scenes sometimes that I would get laughs from the audience, and in my brain, I'm like, why are they laughing? You know, like, I'm so serious right now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm embodying this character that's doing the weirdest thing or whatever, but I'm living the truth of it.
Right.
And yeah, man, improv to me was just like kind of a science. I was going to UCB nightly. I was doing like shows multiple times a week to figure out this process of comedy, you know. And David Mantzoukas, man, he was legendary here. Yeah,
my hero.
Dude,
I love that man.
He did a cage match at UCB one time where, I mean, I'll see you later, my dude. I'm on a podcast. I love you. That's my boy Frank Mosley, one of the best actors I've ever met. He's leaving. So David Mantzoukas did this show at UCB where he did a cage match where it's like 20 minutes, and he comes out and his team couldn't make it, the rest of his team. And so it's just him, right? And so he decides to do this show. The word was hermit, right? So he does this full show about a guy in his house and never leaving, and like doesn't say a word on his computer. He's just clicking around, but people are loving it. You know, at some point, like he gets online and he starts masturbating. You know, like, it's just like, and then he goes through like that part, and then he cries afterwards. You know, like what he did, and it's like, and people were riveted. He doesn't say a word, and at the end, of course, he wins. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, an incredible talent to be in that silence and be like, I don't need to say anything. I just need to go through a real like moment. And,
right.
Like, he was hitting real moments, you know?
Well, first off, if I was waiting to go on stage and my team didn't show up, that'd be the end of the night for me. I'd go, all right, well, I'm leaving. You guys can find someone else to fill it. Like, to have the balls, first off, just to be like, I got it. I'll go. No problem. And then to just do that and say nothing. Like, Jesus Christ.
I've heard that story so many times, and because like I think I listened to him on God, why is his name failing me?
Pete Holmes?
No, Mark Maron's podcast.
Yeah.
And Mark Maron's like, I heard a story about you, and he's like,
the same one?
Yeah, he's like, my team didn't show up, so I just did I did like something without speaking. Mark goes, that's the funniest goddamn thing I've ever seen. I was like, what? It's just his natural ability to handle those situations, and like you said, it's all about honesty. Because sometimes nowadays it's hard to be that honest because people are like, oh, this is gross or this is inappropriate. But he's like that scene you described, we've all been alone and been like, I suppose I should masturbate. And you do it and you're like, I feel kind of guilty about this. And then you're like, you're sad afterwards. I'm like, we're all like, that's a real thing.
Right.
That's a real thing.
Thank you for going there.
Yeah, exactly. You went there, and that's why we laughed. It's like, oh, wait a minute, we've all been there. I think I never was really into sports or like certain, like people can name like indie basketball players, like college players, like whatever it is. I knew like the gambit of like improvisers and their history.
Yes.
That was kind of like my nerd knowledge. And,
you had their trading cards and everything.
Yeah, I made them.
You made them
with little like experience points and like super strength.
Right. Yeah.
The ability to yes and great use of buttons.
Right. This guy's definitely a healer. He's a support. Yeah. He's a support role. Yeah.
Object work unrivaled by anyone else.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. The improv scene to me has been like such a gift, man, and being able to like yeah, I think that was my inspiration of like a lot of these comedians, a lot of these improvisers, like to be that clever. Because I've seen shows that you just blow your mind, man, because they're so truthful and so real. They're almost therapeutic, you know? Yeah, and I think my day to day is filled with many improv scenes with me and my boys. That's what it is. It's always like
that's how this friendship was.
That laugh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I actually just a joke because I say that he politely bullied me into doing it because he finished the writing program. And he goes, "I'm going to do improv. I think you should too." And I was like, "Okay." And then like I went and I was like, I forged ahead for 4 years. I was like, I need all of this that this can offer me, and I just was all into it, and it's made my life so much better because of it, just personally, professionally. Like you said, those skills of like, I'm a corporate trainer, so I'm kind of teaching and stuff, and it's absolutely just so useful to be like, oh, weird comment, let's flip that around and let's diffuse the situation or make a quirky joke. Oh, I was teaching one time and I was trying to say like something about the second. I go, and what you want to do is when you have sex with, I'm like, oh God, I just said in front of a whole bunch of VPs something about having sex, and I turn and I go, that's not what I meant. I think you knew what I meant. Let's revisit that. And I just diffused it. We moved on. No big deal. Yeah. Former Doug would have been like crippled. Like, I said sex at work. I'm going to get fired. I'm like, nah, what are you going to do? You know, fuck him.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. That's exactly right. There's this book, Split Second Persuasion, talks about one of the greatest like persuasive tools you could have is humor. Right, or like even in negotiation and certain things, and it's a powerful tool to like just make people feel at ease and feel like you're in control of the situation because hey man, like you could crack a joke that just eases tension, and I think we look for that quality in people, you know, because it's like you're not taking things too seriously. I think if you're like stressed up, people can feel that in a situation, but if you're light on your feet and you're working through an uncomfortable situation like that, people are like, whoa, you know, how are you doing it?
100%.
Yeah. There's another place where being light on your feet can really benefit you. You've got to really be in the moment and like present. And do you know what I'm talking about, Doug?
Is this a throwdown?
It's the throwdown.
It's a throwdown. Nice segue.
Thank you. Thank you. You teed me up on that one. It was perfect.
Johnny's like, what the hell are we talking about right now? And I was like, don't worry, he'll get there. It's cool. All right, Justin, what do you got?
All right, so today's throwdown, it's gonna be a special one. Because we have Johnny on, I felt like we had to kind of cater to what you know. So I think we're gonna throw Lucio in there.
Ooh, Lucio's getting into the arena.
Put Lucio up against. If you've played Team Fortress 2, you might be familiar with the Scout.
Are you familiar with Team Fortress 2 at all?
The rollerblading guy. Is that his name?
His name's the Scout. He's essentially like a really fast dude that like has a shotgun and can double jump and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I feel like those are kind of on the same page attribute wise. So we're gonna put a Lucio up against the Scout from TF2.
All right. So I think we should start by saying that Lucio's very nice. Right. So I think that puts him at a disadvantage.
He would he would defuse the situation
with music.
Okay.
He put some subtle music out there.
I would say don't mistake Lucio's niceness, you know, because he does commit murder. Right?
That's a very fair point.
Throw people off of buildings without a hesitation.
And he says it while saying boop.
He'll boop you right off and commit multiple murders at once.
That's a very fair point.
That's a very fair point. And he's like, all right, guys, let's keep going, you know?
All right, let's do it. Oh, yeah. Everyone's dead.
That's a really good point. That's a very fair point.
Also encouraging everybody to go out and commit murder.
So if anything, I'd say that gives him a huge advantage because he's happy to do it and it doesn't bother him. He's in such a good space.
That's like sociopathic in some way.
So he's like, hey, let's go do this. I'm going to kill you. All right. So,
God damn.
So, I'm going to switch around on that. I think that's a huge advantage to Lucio.
So break it. So since you're very familiar with the Scout, let's break down. We know what Lucio's abilities are. Let's break down what the Scout is.
Well, so the Scout, he's very fast. He's from the East Coast. He's got almost like a New York or sort of Boston accent, so you know he's already an asshole right there.
Yeah.
He carries a bat. and he carries a shotgun, and he moves very quickly. Wow. He can double jump, and he's got like a really close. He loves to get in close, shoot you, blast you with very powerful shotgun shells, and get out. He's very weak. He doesn't have very much health because he's very fast. So I think what makes him great is from a distance he can use his bat, and he has a baseball. And if he aims it right, he can hit people with a ball, and it'll bonks them, and it stuns them. It stuns them, and then he just goes in and beats the shit out of them. It only lasts for a couple seconds, though.
Okay.
But you do have to have kind of good aim with that ball.
You gotta be really accurate with that ball.
Every time I've ever tried to use that, I have missed.
Yes.
And it has been a travesty for me.
Exactly. And so I think for him to use that on Lucio would be challenging because Lucio's fast.
Right.
He's on rollerblades, right? So that's interesting. But I'd say maneuverability-wise, they're pretty similar. Lucio can ride up on buildings and on the sides of walls and can be super annoying. That way, the scout can double jump around people all the time so you can't even aim at them. So I think it'd be really interesting to see these two in an arena, basically just like doing mad loops around each other.
Yeah.
Trying to just like... Because I don't think Lucio would be able to hit the scout very well with his sonic blasters. Is that what they're called?
Amplifier.
Amplifier blasters.
But it does blast. So
it does blast. So I think the thing that works for him is, obviously, if the scout gets close, he can boop him. But there's a cooldown on that.
Yep.
Okay.
But he also regenerates over time with his music. So scout cannot regenerate. So that's a huge disadvantage to the scout. So whatever the scout, because the scout has to do a lot of damage really quick and hopefully kill Lucio. Otherwise, Lucio gets away, heals over time. He also has an ultimate ability, which I feel like we shouldn't take into account because the scout doesn't have that, where he can give himself basically full armor.
I would say that... Yeah, we should take that into account. That's a thing. Yeah.
What do you mean?
That's a thing.
What are we talking here, man? We're playing pretend? Let's talk about the real stuff.
Let's get down to fucking brass tacks, guys.
I mean, I guess I should say that the scout also has this little jar of milk that he can throw on people, and when he shoots them while they have milk on them, he gets life back because this is real life.
Video games are fun.
Video games logic is very true and very real.
Every time I've thrown milk on people, that has given me life.
I throw milk and punch him, and I just feel better about life. I feel better. I feel healed.
So with all that, I gotta give it to. I think it would be the two of them are there's gonna be a lot of dancing around. Mm-hmm. They're gonna be going around each other. It's gonna be a lot of maneuvering and a lot of missed shots on both ends.
Yes.
But I think at the end of the day, I've got to give it to Lucio for a couple reasons. Number one, he's got that armor he can pull out. Mm-hmm. Right. Number two, I just think he's got that sociopathic ability. Like he's just got that repressed back here. Right. He really kind of digs it. And then number three, Johnny's our guest.
Well, I also say this.
Perfect.
The scout has ammo. Lucio does not. So huge disadvantage there. Once he runs out of shotgun bullets, what's he got?
That's true.
He's got a bat.
He's got a bat. Yeah.
Right.
So
that's true.
Got a bat.
I'd say
it'll be hard to catch Lucio on a wall with a bat.
Yeah. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Exactly. I would say Lucio's probably going to be faster than the scout, so he'll just be going trying to hit him and missing the whole time. So I think I'm probably gonna have to give the edge to Lucio as well.
Johnny, what do you think?
I give it to Scout, guys. You know, I really fuck that guy.
I was like, there he goes being a nice guy. He's like, I feel like, no, fuck that guy.
Be humble, just being humble, guys.
I love it.
That's all right. So we're saying Lucio for the win?
Lucio for the win.
I'll give it to Lucio, man.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Well, Johnny, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. This was a real pleasure. We really appreciate your insight and just taking the time to chat with us today. So thank you very, very much.
Yep. Thank you guys, man. It's been super fun, so appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah. So before we go, we like to give our guests an opportunity to do any shout-outs, or if there's anything you got going on that you want to promote, or if there's a show or something that you're like, you guys got to watch this, because we don't really have a whole lot that we're really doing, show-wise, so we're like, you should watch this. So if you got something coming up that you want to promote, or if you want people to follow you on social media, anything like that, we'd like to give our guests an opportunity to promote that.
You can find all my weird and odd, beautiful sketches on any of my socials, and that's at Jonny Cruz, JonnyCruzz, because I'm a sleepy boy. That's on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. So, and I'm posting something every week there, which right now I'm doing this. It's an Instagram stories sitcom called Teenage Dad.
Nice.
Where a teenager accidentally turns his dad into a teenager. So teenagers raising another teenager, and it gets into the weirdest. It's subversive and a sitcom, so we've been having a lot of fun with it, and that's now on my stories. We wanted to overproduce an Instagram story and just blow it out, really like a laugh track, like shot on cameras.
That's awesome.
So people are like, what the fuck is this on my story? And we've been doing that for, we have like 3 seasons of it, so it's super fun. So check that out. And yeah, I got some stuff coming out. I'll be at some Comic-Cons coming up, so check my pages for those. And yeah, man.
Nice.
Yeah, follow your boy.
Nice. That's so cool.
Yeah.
You can find You can find Facebook on Facebook.com. You can find Mindgap on Facebook.
Do you want to promote anything? Do you want to?
I guess I should do that. I don't know. What do you want people to watch, Justin? I'll kick it over to you first.
Well, I just saw Bohemian Rhapsody last night.
How was it?
And I know it's catching a lot of shit.
Is it?
It is. It's catching a lot of. Yeah. It's. I think it was last I checked. It was like in the 50s or something on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh.
Wow.
Okay.
I know. Yeah, but I fucking loved it.
Okay.
I absolutely thought it was great.
You're the 4th person that I've interacted with that are in my network that I appreciate their opinion.
Yeah.
Have said it's incredible.
Yeah.
So like, for me, I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't know that other part, like it wasn't doing well, that low. But
Yeah.
I'm just hearing it's really, really great. I think the mass of people that are in my network at least.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now just to see what.
62%?
Yeah, so it's at 62%, so it's gone up, which is great. 94% audience rating though, so I feel like that's
all that
says a
matters.
lot. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it was and Rami Malek. I mean, Jesus Christ, crushed it.
That's
Absolutely
awesome.
crushed it.
Yeah.
And actually, everyone that they cast for all the roles, if you look at them side by side with the actual people,
Pretty impressive.
Brian May was fucking right there, right? Like they all were just like that was it. Yeah, it was really cool. So go see that.
That's awesome. I watched Finding Nemo for the 17th time
Doug
with
has
my daughter.
Doug has a daughter.
Which I'm fine with. We're switching from things to things more openly now. It used to be Moana. I saw that about 68 times. I'm like, I can't watch this movie ever again. So Finding Nemo's the new one. We just moved on from Thor Ragnarok, so I guess you win some, you lose some. So yeah, I guess Finding Nemo still holds up, guys. After all these years, I can recommend that.
Disney movies, some of my favorite of all time.
Yeah,
They got a nice little formula, guys.
Yeah.
It really works.
the animation for the
we'll
water
throw
and the
something in
sea
the
is
mix.
good.
Yeah. So here's something I watched that I was like, whoa, Sacrifice on Netflix by Darren Brown.
Okay.
So he's like that mentalist that does like weird kind of like
Yes.
Yeah, I see you're getting it. But this Sacrifice is about can he get someone through a series of compliance mental like game take a bullet for
whoa.
someone. Yeah, and dude, Jesus Christ, that shit had me on the edge of my seat. And just what an interesting piece of art to make as to knowing these like things about human, because I'm so interested in like human behavior, you
Sure.
know, and like as an actor, as a marketing back in the day,
Yeah.
to watch the way in which people can behave and things can change your behavior, and like man, it was
He must love the
they were
Joker.
fascinating.
You must be a big fan of the Joker, I bet. Yes.
Yes. No, actually, yeah. I mean, anybody who can manipulate. I mean, we're being manipulated right now, guys. So
What's happening? I'm feeling it.
by Blizzard,
Right, yeah. Oh, they're watching. They're watching.
they're watching us. I knew it.
I'm a big fan of Warcraft 3.
I always-
I'm
I
looking
always
forward to the
think
remaster.
we're all little. You ever think like there's a master user and we are like the Sims? Like, you know what I
Sure.
mean?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I'm the Sim and somebody's like clicking around, making
Yeah.
me do stuff.
It's terrifying.
It's a terrifying concept that we've talked about before.
We have no control.
We're in the Matrix.
Awesome.
Awesome. Cool. So, guys, you can find Mindgap on Facebook. Look for our page there. We're also on Twitter and Instagram at Mindgap Podcast. And Justin exists digitally as well.
On Instagram and Twitter, I'm at Justin_Michael, spelled Mikel. It is the fun way of spelling it. And while you're in the online realm, check us out on iTunes, on Stitcher, on
Spotify.
and on Google Podcasts, wherever podcasts are sold. Subscribe to us, review us, rate us, do all the things, and biggest, share us around.
Yes.
Because sharing is caring, and we love to get shared. And then 2east8th.com/mindgap and 2east8th.com/the-best-bar-podcast-ever. The other podcast to do with Milos every Monday. It's about the bar industry, and it's pretty damn cool. And then check out just 2east8th.com. We're going to got some new stuff coming up. Drew and I are working on a couple shorts that I think you're gonna. I think people are gonna. They're gonna dig. Ooh. Yeah.
Ooh. How interesting. Jonny, thanks so much again for your time, and to all you lovely listeners, we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Mindgap Podcast.